Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Final Fantasy Randomizer Highlander Tournament. I am Melee Wizard, and alongside me is Woat. How are you doing today?
I've actually had a kind of rough day, but I'm feeling good enough to do this, so hopefully I can make it through this inevitable slog of a seed.
So we have Elastoid versus Gregglypuff, and we have just starting off, we have two very different party compositions here. Elastoid going with double black belt, double red mage. Gregglypuff going double fighter, black belt, red mage. This is going to be interesting, and when we go over what the seeds are, you'll probably see why there's no white or black mages here. Starting off, we have enemies are vanilla. The spells are also vanilla. So no nuke, no fade, no life 2 until way at the end, and I guess our runners aren't really banking on that too much. The XP is at LOL levels, 5.0 plus 500. Weapon fixes are off. Obviously have the freeform party. The map is on Helter Skelter, which is full entrance shuffle with randomized NPC items. And for the endgame, we have a lovely Chaos Rush, which means you basically have everything you need to get into the Temple of Fiends Revisited right off the bat. And it's just a matter of getting all the resources you need for the full trip, because it is the full-length Topher this time around.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so as people in chat are already observing, between the vanilla magic and the LOL XP, that kind of explains their party compositions. With 5x XP, just choosing to let the black belt wield the best sword in the game is a completely viable option. And by that same token, what the red mage gains access to just by vanilla rules is kinda all you're going to really get. So there's no sense in bringing someone more fragile like a black or a white mage when you can have someone who can theoretically wield a pretty decent sword in the end game, as well as throughout any magic you might want.
Because at the very least, with a class change, should they decide to, they could at least get life 1, I believe.
I can never remember the vanilla stuff well enough to tell you, but I mean, worst case scenario, red mage will bring enough healing firepower to the party to keep you upright, and really all you're doing is just punching everything with that black belt, most likely.
So the interesting thing is Gregglypuff choosing 2 fighters and a black belt, so he's kind of banking on what will happen first, either good equipment or just gain a bunch of levels for the black belt, whichever seems more viable going in after a little while.
I mean, what he may be leaning on is finding that steel armor in the shops, because he's going to have the money to be able to buy it by the end game. So that gives you 2 very beefy tanks to put in front of your black belt, just in case.
Yep. And even though we have full entrance shuffle, Corneria will still be where Corneria is, because the game may be mean, but it's not that mean.
I mean, yeah, you gotta have something to start with. But yeah, you know, one of the things that you'll notice with vanilla magic right off the bat is both the runners go to the weapon and armor shop first, because we already know what's in the magic shop.
Yep. And we know there are not going to be any AoEs, so if we can get any good weapons right off the bat, that would be a lovely thing. And it looks like Corneria Castle that's Sharknado floor, correct?
Yeah, that's Sharknado floor. And hey, you know, a little bit of money, a little bit of shield. And it looks like, just judging by what I'm seeing on Elastoid's side, we at least get a little bit of a run to start things off. Now, we are playing with Helter Skelter, so there's no telling what anything else is going to be, although it looks like Temple of Fiends is just straight up Matoya. And
we have a loose float. We have a loose floater. Oh boy, that's good to find early. And the ship. Wow.
Yeah. So at this point, I believe Extended Open is Yeah, no, open progression's not on, so we're gonna still need to find a canoe to actually turn in that floater, even if we find the canal. But the ship
Yeah,
does let us explore the inner sea.
correct. So we would have access to Provoca, Elfland, Northwest Castle if they decide to trek that far.
I mean, they're probably gonna need to decide to go that far, because, you know, until they find either canoe or canal, they're locked into the inner sea.
And I believe for airship, they need the canoe regardless. Because without the open progression, there wouldn't be a dock over by the desert there.
Yeah, that's correct. But what the canal at least would give them access to is the Melmond area, as well as Crescent Lakes location. So, you know, it's not ideal, but it's a step up.
Right. It's better. At least you're able to get somewhere. And Dwarf Castle has Topher.
Well, that's not bad at all.
No, not.
So Greggly Puff is currently basically just kind of making these suicide runs just to see what's in these chests.
The Opal Shield's not a bad find, even if you can't use it yet.
Yeah, and you know, that again kind of gets back to kind of what we were saying at the outset, is he is going to find stuff that's going to make these fighters, if nothing else, tanky. Like, you're more likely to find armor than you are, you know, weapons, just because there's a lot more decent in-game armor than there are decent in-game weapons, especially with weapon fixes off.
And if nothing else, the weapon shop does have silver axes and silver swords, so that is a viable thing for the early game.
Absolutely. And
once you're able to afford them.
Yeah. But it is one of those things where, like, just from the perspective of party survivability long-term, ooh, and there's a dragon sword in that Temple of Fiends. You know, not something you normally get excited about, but kind of with this situation, it's still a good find.
Yeah, and one note regarding the Chaos Rush flags. For one, you basically have access to Topher right off the bat, and our runners both start with the loot, and apparently any key lock doors that are in Topher have been unlocked. We kind of discovered that the hard way during the match that happened earlier this evening.
Yeah, and on Elastoid's side, you can see what I was just saying about the Dragon Sword. That was what really took out Garland for him, because those black belts not really going to be doing too much until he gets a chance to get some experience on them. And Artea down in chat pretty much pointing out that a two-man black belt grind would not be the worst idea given this situation, because you know what the enemies in Topher are looking like. You know basically what you need to do to succeed. Yeah, you really don't need any safety strats. You just need to find something that you can punch, that you can wear down.
And looks like, I believe I saw, was that Gaia and Crescent Lake at Elfland?
That's what it looked like, yeah. So, unfortunately, completely useless for magic, but, you know, probably going to have some decent equipment.
Well, there's steel armor and gold bracelets. That's not bad. Weapons, Corneria had better weapons, honestly, but...
Yeah, but this one has affordable weapons. So yeah, the bright side is this is probably going to be a fairly quick seed, even if the runners opt to not go for a two-man grind.
Right, just because we've already seen Temple of Fiends revisited, that was going to be one of the big things, because who knows where that could have ended up.
Question in chat, what's randomized in this? Not a whole lot. Well, some significant things, but in this case, enemy stats and Magic is all going to be vanilla. Locations are randomized as well as floors. And treasures are shuffled. And that's pretty much it.
Yep, in the Highlander Tournament, our runners in turn are able to choose various flag combinations, and I believe this was
This one was Elastoid's pick, and
okay,
Greypuff just went along with it. He did not exercise his veto privilege.
And I totally missed what Puff just got from the Circle of Sages.
A pure potion.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, so the other thing is NPC items are shuffled.
One thing that I didn't think to consider, is anything incentivized?
No. Nothing is incentivized. If Topher were a little... if Topher weren't literally accessible 5 minutes into the seed, it would be a treasure hunt. But as it stands, pretty much as soon as these players feel comfortable taking things down, they don't have to look for anything. Like, they both have black belts, and there is steel armor for sale in Crescent Lake, so, like, with that 30k chest available in Marsh Cave location, Puff pretty much has everything he needs, or would want. Like, he can put steel armor on those two fighters, and use them to tank for the black belt.
So, is the steel armor better than a gold bracelet?
Steel armor is on par with fire and ice armor, which I believe is on par with the gold bracelet.
Okay, though I think the gold bracelets were more expensive there, though. I think it was a difference of like 14k versus 30k or something like that, so...
Actually, yeah, Artea's comment in chat, I think I may be getting the gold bracelet and the opal bracelet stats mixed up. And Artie Platypus is confirming that, yeah. It's one of those things, I knew that those were on par with one of the bracelet sets, and yeah. This is why we keep Artea around, folks, because he just has everything memorized in this game for some god-awful reason.
We all have our hobbies.
Alright, and I got a little bit mixed up. It was actually Northwest Cave, that's the top floor of Earth. But yeah, Gregley is still going to find the money he needs to just go ahead and gear up these fighters for the end game.
And with one nice thing about vanilla enemies, you don't have to worry about any of these enemies packing some nasty ability that they wouldn't normally have.
The downside is they pack the nasty abilities they normally would have.
Yes, but at least you know that going in when you when you see the gas dragons and whatnot, you know what they have, as opposed to having to discover what they have. What? Puff is diving farther. Don't think we saw Elastoid go down this far. And it's another Earth floor.
Yeah,
with the unrunnable wizards. Yay!
Yeah, I think this is Earth 4. So
looks like it.
Yeah, so he can keep going if he wants, and excuse me. He may be opting to do this just to go ahead and pick up some experience.
Assuming he can actually get out with it. As I said, the red mage is already down.
Now, it's one of those things... Yeah.
It's just a matter of...
I hope you're not asking us why these runners are choosing to do what they're doing, because your guess is as good as mine. To answer the question in chat, yeah, the way the floor shuffle works is everything that's not Temple of Fiends can be more or less anywhere. The only big caveats to that are Castle of Ordeals is always going to be grouped with itself, and the bottom floors of Ice Cave are always going to be grouped together.
Because that's kind of a weird looping situation with that one.
Yeah, basically. It's just the way that the game understands how floor transitions in those areas work. Is just... It would have been a pain to separate them, so the dev team just didn't bother.
Just imagine what floor shuffle would look like if the procedurally generated floors get expanded to include everything. That would be an interesting experience for sure.
Oh, God, I can't wait until we have more procedurally generated floors. But I'm also a known advocate of just, you know, making things painful for everyone.
At least Wrigglypuff was able to get out of Northwest Castle with all that XP.
I have to wonder where he's going, though.
Probably to get some new weaponry.
Ah, true. He does have access to silver swords now. Hopefully he doesn't know what his armor situation looks like, though.
Ooh, Elastoid finding I think that was a brief glimpse of volcano floor.
Yeah, that looked like, Volcano 4, I think?
Yeah. And there's the team at floor, which these flags mean nothing. Unless you want to try and fight a war mech or something.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, I mean, the thing is you'd have to do a lot of manipulation to draw that war mech out, because while the RNG table is randomized, I believe the normal, like, encounter pacing is still the same, so war mech is still going to be pretty deep in the table.
Yeah, Provoke led to Northwest Castle.
Well, at least we can hang out with the kindly old king.
Yeah, but we don't have the MacGuffin that he's asking for, so...
Well, yeah, I suppose, which is a shame. He's such a nice guy. Oh, hey, the Dwarf Cave.
with TNT right there, wow. Okay. And he's not even going to turn it in.
Alright, Artea clarifying that the encounter group order may be random, but the formations tied to each group are vanilla. So, it is possible to draw an early war mech with these with the flags as they are. If I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, you just have to kind of figure out what the encounter order is and go from there. And given that this is a race, it may... Who knows if it's actually worth the time and effort to do that right now.
I mean, it is one of those things, like... You know, technically Narek could have anything down there, but... Yeah, I'd say you have a black belt in your party, there's no point. That being said, these Arsahags should be some decent eating.
Yeah, the Wizards of Hag group is not a bad thing. Especially when you know that they don't have any... Well, the Reds of Hags can't be spamming stuff at you. So at this point, When will our runners just start settling into the grind, or whatever mindset they may be taking into this?
I mean,
like, when will they feel that they have the equipment that they need, I guess? Because at least one ribbon would be nice, but...
Actually, yeah, Nerek's a fetch quest NPC. Those weren't shuffled. I completely forgot about that. However, y'all are going to get sick of me saying, but Artea makes a good point, but Artea keeps making good points in chat, and credit where credit's due. But yeah, the canal would at least provide a 10% XP boost. That is one of the other flags that are tripped.
And it will make the grind be that much shorter. And Elastoid finding the tail, speaking of XP boosts. Given our flag set, that tail will likely not get turned in, because who knows if we'll even mind bomb it in the first place.
Well, there's that, and, you know, I mean, there's no reason to leave the inner sea at this point. Like, you have access to enough XP.
On that note, has Gregory Puff seen where Topher is? I know Elastoid did.
I'm pretty sure he went over there. I don't think he did anything, but I could have sworn he went.
And we're seeing a bit of a possible benefit in Gregory Puff's party choice, having a bit of extra firepower with the fighters, able to take out the wizards while Elastoid was having some trouble.
Alright, so Gregory has opted to turn in that canal. I wonder if that means he's planning to go over and see what's in Melmond. But yeah, Gregory definitely has the XP lead at this point. Just because his party does have those silver swords and can thus take out some stuff that Elastoid's party really can't, even... Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. But once those black belts on Elastoid's side start coming into their own, the tides may change.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But at that point, I kind of prefer Gregory Puff's approach of basically putting two massive meat walls in front of his one black belt.
And then, of course, you have lobsters, which are never any fun.
And those sea snakes happen to have poison touch.
No, the lobsters have poison touch.
Isn't the lobsters have a poison touch?
Yes.
Okay.
On top of hitting like a truck.
See, it's silly me for assuming that Final Fantasy I made sense.
Well, I mean, cobras don't have poison touch either.
The moral of the story, folks, is don't try to apply logic to Final Fantasy I.
Applying logic to video games in general can be an exercise in frustration.
I mean, the original Pokemon made sense for the most part.
Yeah, except for the part where the type chart didn't work the way it was supposed to. But anyway.
Oh, hush. Let me have my dreams. So,
hey, I got more mileage out of Gen 1 than any of the others, so I've been there.
Anyway, Gregory did finally decide to spare our ears by curing his poison. And I'm not sure where he's planning to go at this point. He's at least heading back to the Elfland area.
Perhaps paying a visit to the armor shop?
I hope he does, because that would pretty much leave him set. But he's not doing that. Oh, he may be going back to... He's probably heading back to Northwest Castle to keep... Wait, he saw the bottom of that. He may be heading for Marsh Cave, then.
Possibly, yeah.
You know, I wonder if these runners are hunting for Agama.
Yeah, we do. I believe the trap tiles are not shuffled, I don't think.
No. So, Agama's going to be where it is, and that may be why they're still digging around instead of just taking what they can get.
And while we do have the Bridge of Destiny as an option, the encounters there are not necessarily the best things. Like the Red Hydras would be nice, but they tend to but they have cremate, and that would not be good long term. And the Marsh Cave has the Titan's Cave.
So yeah, I think at this point, you probably should head back to that water floor. Unless you're Elastoid and you're going to Peninsula of Power.
Well, hey, if you're gonna look for a grind spot, that certainly works as one.
I mean, it works, but...
Assuming you can actually survive long enough to take them out.
Yeah, I think at this point we're kind of seeing the disadvantage of Elastoid's approach.
Well, I mean, he did arm the red mages with silver swords, to be fair.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I love the red mage, you know, red hat, ride or die, whatever. But the red mage is not the most effective meleeer. I mean, yes, it's better than a thief, but... I don't know, I have to wonder if maybe he's kind of in the spell shuffle mindset of, you know, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about black belts at lower levels because you can just blast through everything.
Oh, there's the canoe.
We were looking for. Also, I would advise anyone who's watching this live to just let Artea weep in his corner for the grinding that isn't happening.
Yes, unfortunately, not all of us have encyclopedic knowledge of the game. I'm not even sure which grinding spot he's thinking of.
There are water tiles, I believe, on Sharknado floor.
Ah, okay.
Now, I couldn't tell you which tile that is, but... Yeah, now, basically,
Yes, the water tile, this Sharknado stuff, yeah, I understand that now.
Ooh, I don't know if I agree with Elastoid's trying to possibly do at the moment. Yeah, no, he's gonna try and use these black belts at level 13. I don't think this is going to be as effective as he thinks it is. Meantime, I assume that Greggly Puff is about to go cash in that floater for an airship.
If nothing else, that would allow him to get to places faster.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not a bad move. You're already in the neighborhood. You have the floater. Rivers are not that bad to navigate. Especially with the levels he's already put up. And whatever apprehensions he has, getting the airship will allow him to address them.
That would also mean it would take him longer to actually find Topher if he hasn't already found it.
Well, I mean, maybe. It's a pretty quick check to check Dwarf Cave if you haven't. But yeah, I have to assume that what Gregory is looking for is a grind spot he's comfortable with. Like, he may just not be comfortable with the waters if he's aware of them.
And, well, if he can get there, we have a potential eye grind. If he can get there.
Yeah, but the problem is he's dealing with vanilla encounters in Ice Cave.
Yeah, sorcerers are probably the big thing to watch out for here.
Well, that and all the undead. Like, there's a lot of nasty stuff in Ice Cave. There's a reason that people, you know, were traumatized as children by it. For example, note how he is skipping the mage chest. That's because he doesn't want to deal with mages.
And justifiably so, because they start off with rub.
Exactly.
The Frost Dragon went down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and Elastoid did manage to actually win a fight here with his double black belts. But yeah, it looks like Gregglypuff has hung enough levels on this party to be able to survive the trials of Ice Cave for the moment.
And I'm expecting avoiding the Frost Wolf trap tile. Because without an AoE, that's not a friendly fight to take.
Well, I mean, I know what you mean about no AoEs. The Frost Wolves have it covered.
Yes, but we don't.
What? They're just puppies who want to play. With Ice Breath. Are you saying they're bad dogs?
To their owners? Perhaps not, but we're not their owners.
I mean, I'm not saying that there are friendly encounters in Ice Cave. I'm saying that I think at the point where Gregglypuff is, there's nothing that is necessarily going to slow him down.
Oh, there's a Pro Cape. That's not bad. And from the Frost Dragon room, they did get a soft potion for free. So if those cockatrices decide they want to try funny stuff, they'll at least have a way of recovering from it. And he gets to the eye. And is about as squishy as it normally is. Fancy that.
I wouldn't be so... Yeah, I fully expect he's just going to grind on this for a while.
Yep. And it's just, at this point, it's just a matter of not if he just goes down to solo black belt, but when.
I mean, that's a very risky proposition with a Vanilla Ice Cave. Like, I think what he probably is going to want to do is, you know, maybe get that black belt up to like 22, you know, the point where he's starting to actually contribute to the party instead of just being a glorified punch stick, and then just get out of here and go find something more profitable than the eye.
Like perhaps the Sharknado Florence. But yeah, but your thought of going down to just the one black belt, I understand that, because one unfortunate sorcerer encounter could just ruin everything that he's done here. Or a Quad X, for that matter.
Yeah, the bright side is, Quad X... Yeah. Fortunately, the eye targeted someone who had the ability to just weather the Quad X.
Right. And one benefit of the XP settings we have right now at the 5x plus 500, the grind won't really take that long, because even when split 4 ways, it took, what, 2 eyes to get from 20 to 21.
Yeah, I guess the one advantage he'll have circulating back through Ice Cave is he's going to be going back through Ice Cave with plenty of MDef. And that'll go a long way to getting him through some of these more dangerous encounters. Okay, yeah. There are now the black belts.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Meanwhile, Elastoid's kind of keeping up on the XP front, at least on the black belts, because on the last fight, Elastoid had brought the black belts up to 20.
Yeah, the issue that Elastoid may run into is having those black belts strong, but not his red mages. He's gonna have to get through some encounters in Topher that, you know, are going to have more than 2 or 3 opponents in them.
Yeah, but if the red mages don't have anything better than silver swords, they're probably not going to contribute that much anyway.
Yeah, but they're taking punches for you while you're trying to beat everything down.
Getting more gold, another gold bracelet.
Which is an odd decision.
Well, at their current levels, they do contribute for the black belt. They're better than what their natural absorb would have been.
Yeah, in 3 levels, that'll stop being the case.
Well, it all depends on whether Elastoid's heading back. See where Elastoid's taking him on. Now he's heading for Sharknado. Not punching waters, but punching Gersharks instead. And just leaving those red mages, leaving him down. And in a move that I think might have been intentional, the red mage got hit by a quad X. And I think Gregory Puff intentionally neglected to heal up the red mage specifically for that purpose.
I don't know if that was necessarily his intention. Like, I think the red mage just didn't hit 300 HP yet.
Oh, it did. It did. For sure it did. But
well,
I noticed when he was healing the black belt, he did not heal the red mage.
Now, I think if it had been, I think he was just kind of letting the chips fall where it may, or else he would have shuffled that red mage up front.
Possibly. Goodness knows the red mage is already like mid-20s, I think, so. At least as far as spell charges are concerned, that's fine.
Yeah. I have to wonder when Gregory Puff is going to say enough is enough and move on.
So Elastoid's up to 25.
And Gregory should be, 29.
So they're not that far apart on levels, despite their disparate methodology here.
Well, I mean, that's the difference, that only doing a 2-man grind versus others.
Well, I'm also talking about where they're doing it. Elastoid did the pop grind going and then went back to Sharknado. Well, Gregory Puff has just stuck to the eye grind here. And it's working. And if nothing else, Elastoid at least went and saved after getting a bunch of levels. Gregory Puff, if something happens and Gregory Puff gets taken out here in Ice Cave, that's a lot of levels that he just lost.
Like I said, I think at this point, the MDef he's got handy is going to go a long way to making sure nothing bad happens on the way out, knock on wood.
And another thing is, I don't think we never did see Elfland, so fast isn't on the table right now either.
Yeah, but Gregglypuff does have the option of doing a little bit of exploration before heading down to Topher.
That is true. That is true.
And since Deep Towns is not in production, he already knows that wherever Elfland is, it's on the surface.
It's just a matter of how much time do you want to commit to finding it. Because with these flags, with Topher where it is, you gotta think you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just comes down to which of these runners opts to say, okay, I think I can make it through Topher with these levels. And judging by the fact he's still going, I have to think Greggly's going to go ahead and just take this black belt to 42 and drag the fighters with him.
He's already hit the 8-hit threshold, and he's still going. So that's really the only other thing. You know, Elastoid just hitting 30 himself. Has gone out once or twice to save afterwards, so he's at least being safe in making sure he's keeping these levels that he's getting.
So anyway, I'd like to welcome everyone to Final Fantasy Randomizer. Yeah. I don't know. I still think I prefer Gregglypuff's approach for dealing with a long Topher. Just because it's that insurance policy of, hey, this way there's more than one or two people who can get punched in the face and I can keep going.
So they're still about 4 levels apart. So while Elastoid's getting more XP per fight, I think Gregglypuff is getting more fights in. So we'll see what happens once Elastoid hits... Well, okay, is already at 33 and is still going, so it's probably going to take his pair of black bells up to 42 as well.
Looks like Gregglypuff decided 37 was good enough. Not sure what about that made him make that choice, but he is now going to extract himself from Ice Cave.
First things first, getting out of Ice Cave. We'll deal with whatever. We'll deal with what comes after once we actually, once he actually takes these levels out.
He probably just needs to start punching these wraiths instead of continuing to let them wail on him, though.
Oh, there's the mages. But he's able to get away from them. Good.
And yeah, so here's Gregglypuff beginning to look around.
There's Corneria Castle. And the fact that he didn't even check for items there, well, I guess with no incentivized locations, who knows, they probably could have just gotten nothing there.
Alright, he's picking his red mage up and presumably going to save after he does his shopping.
Yeah, most likely. Probably buy a couple more gold bracelets, maybe. Or steel armor, whichever.
Yep, steel for the fighters, gold for the red mage, and... yeah, he's selling that opal shield. He is not going to bother with the class change at this point. I mean, he doesn't know where the tail is for one, but I think even if he did, it's not worth the time.
Yeah. And the Elastoid, I didn't see what level his group was at.
Can't imagine he's much higher than 35.
And I think Grigglypuff just found Topher. And Melman has Lefane. Alright then.
Well, you know, all those hick towns that no one cares about all look the same after a while.
And there's Provoka. And Elastoid is going in.
Alright, we'll see if his 2 black belts are enough. Meanwhile, though, Grigglypuff, his intentions are clear. He's going to go ahead and hunt down that fast, I suspect.
Yep. Art's not a bad thing to find, though. Ooh, the bad man fight. That's not good.
Yeah, the Elastoid really hopes his party can run from this, which it does, but he immediately loses a red mage. But they don't have any XP on them anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
Oh, hi, Phantom.
Goodbye, Phantom.
Alright, and he is now dangling his red mage in front of those black belts as a sacrificial offering. And it just goes down to a cremate.
So, one other factor with the vanilla enemies that also includes the bosses. So, you know what to expect from, like, say, Kraken 2, for example.
Yeah. You know, one thing that may also be an issue for Elastoid as he dives down here. Alright, it looks like Grigglypuff has given up on the hunt for Elfland, discovering that wherever it is, it's going to be too long a walk to be worth the fast.
Yeah, at this point, it looks like it would be either, like, maybe either Lefane, the Waterfall, or Onrak.
Or I guess Castle... Yeah, the point being...
Or Ordeals, yeah.
Yeah. Point being, anywhere that it could be, you don't want to bother checking. You're
Right.
not going to gain enough time with that fast.
Oh, boy. Taking out the Frost Dragons, but health is being a serious issue for Elastoid right now.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, is he literally has 99 heal potions to keep these 2 black belts up through Topher. But just to clarify for Deng Wu, they are running with vanilla magic, so he knows where fast is.
Well, he's getting some good turn order here against these worms.
Yeah. Believe that Elastoid now has the higher level black belts. But
Yeah,
again,
I think they're at 39 right now. Yeah.
yeah. But again, his issue is he's got to get them through this dungeon. And even with just vanilla stats, that is not the easiest thing.
Yeah, getting through Lich 2, maybe Carry 2 is not that big of a thing. Kraken 2 is where probably might be the biggest roadblock just because of how hard he can hit, even in vanilla.
Yeah. The other advantage Puff may wind up having is he can run away a lot easier than Elastoid can. Just because he gets twice as many rolls.
Well, at least for as long as that Red Mage is still up.
I mean, that Red Mage has a decent amount of survivability, and he's got him in a slot where he's safe from most everything, aside from AoEs.
Elastoid's black belt's up to 40. And Lich sends off the nuke.
Yeah, Elastoid definitely got more favorable turn order than Puff in that fight.
And Elastoid down to under 30 heal potions now.
Did he? I didn't even see it.
Yeah,
like,
I think he...
Oh, yeah, it might have just kind of come through in that interval where I couldn't see.
And yeah, that seems like a interesting, appropriate sprite there. But he gets through it. Even if we can't see it, we know from the fanfare that he did.
Yeah. Oh, but the vampires get off a stun.
Yeah, that's not good. But he's able to get away anyway.
Yeah,
nice.
He does manage the run, so fortune favors the running away like a scared little black belt boy.
So our two runners are only a floor away from each other.
And Elastoid does hit level 42, so he does have as good an offense as he can expect. The only question is if his defenses are going to hold up.
Mm-hmm. But it looks like 2 punches, and that's it for Tiamat. Oh, he was getting a couple of encounter. Oh, geez, it's another vampire pack. Ooh, boy.
Yeah, he needs this run to go on.
Oh, wow. Dang. He made it to Cal's floor. Health is going to be a huge issue here, though.
Yeah, he should be able to tear through Chaos in a few rounds, but...
Will he survive the crack? Yes, he does.
Yeah, he's going to survive the crack. He's got enough MDef.
Okay.
Yeah, and there he goes.
And down goes Chaos. So Elastoid finishes first place with an official SRL time of 51:22. GG.
He should be joining us here in a few.
Yeah, you know, Greggly Puff taking out Kraken 2 has only lost 1 fighter so far, which is pretty much just there to be a tank.
Elastoid, one of our players who, as everyone is noticing in chat, gets a little bit fancier with his enemy sprites than usual.
Which is free to do as long as it doesn't interfere with game functionality. Although Gregglypuff is low on healing potions as well.
Yeah, but his black belt is in much better shape than Elastoid's was getting into this.
Oh, definitely. Oh! Well, there's a pain.
Yeah, but he's pretty much got this at this point. Like, worst case scenario,
Worst case scenario, having a good punch his way through these unrunnable worms.
Sorry, had to address something real quick. But, yeah, it's one of those things. He should be able to clear Chaos in about 3 turns. Maybe 4 if he gets some bad rolls. Yeah, there you go. So, Gregglypuff is going to finish with a 54.07 on SRL, and that is going to be a GG for him. So go ahead and get those in chat, folks, and we'll try to get them both in here for a little bit of a chat. GG to both of y'all.
Wow, that was... I did not expect Greggly to finish that quickly after me.
Yeah, that was a really close match, despite the very different paths you guys took to get there.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how Greg approached it. It was... I don't know, like, once I found Temple of Fiends, I was like, well, I'm probably not leaving this continent.
Yeah, basically, I'll put it to you this way. Neither of you approached it in the way Artea would have approached it, and I can tell you this is the case because if you go watch the VOD on Twitch, you will see him complain the entire time that y'all didn't just grind on water.
Waters would have actually been an interesting grind. The problem with that is you're going to take a lot of damage. It's going to eat at the heal pots. I don't know if it's going to be a better grind. The positive to it is you don't have to take any extra steps when you're grinding there. So and save and go back to try to avoid getting into that Wiz-Sahag fight. But I'm pretty sure you'd get into the Wiz-Sahag fight on the way back anyway, and potentially run into ghosts, which could be a wipe. And I think it's a valid play, but without a fighter, I couldn't do it. Right? Like, maybe Greggly could because he had probably steel armor, I'd imagine.
Yep. So the first main difference was your party composition. So Gregglypuff took 2 fighters, black belt and a red. While Elastoid took 2 black belt, 2 red. And also your choice of grinding was very different as well. While Elastoid decided to do the Peninsula of Power leading into the Sharknado, Gregglypuff happened to cross Ice Cave and did the eye grind for a while.
Oh, hey, where was the? Well, I guess I see TNT on your trackers, so I guess you left the continent.
Well,
Oh, we
he
found
found the
something.
canoe. I can't quite remember where. I think he dug deeper into
It was
one of
Earth
the.
2.
Yeah, it was Earth 2. He went down to the south part of Earth 2 and found in one of the chests down there behind the Earth tile.
Oh, that would break the seed wide open, because then you can fly. So then you can grab spells from Elfland.
He never found Elfland.
Could
We
have.
figured it was probably an on-rack waterfall ordeals, one of those locations that you just didn't want to walk to.
I see.
Yeah, I found Provoca somewhere and got Temper, but there was no chance I was looking for Elfland at the point that I was at. I was playing that pretty. It was pretty special the way I was playing the game, but I managed to only come within 3 minutes of you, so it's going to have been that special.
Yeah, and I mean, Elastoid got a couple of lucky runs on Tiamat 2's floor.
Yeah, those the Wizard Vampire pack that could have easily taken Elastoid out.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know how. It's not that lucky when you're at level 42. You're able to run from that.
Yeah, but they did cut it pretty kind of close though.
I nearly wiped out one of my black belts, but I'm confident, like at level 42, that I'm gonna be able to do it with the other one, and that's why I chose to grind to level 35 instead of just stopping at level 32.
Because you're counting on the experience you'd be getting through Topher.
I was counting on like basically I was trying to safety against exactly the Topher that we had, where the fight I did not want to see was the Frost Wolves, and there's a lot of them. I didn't want to see Waters on Water Floor. I didn't want to see Nuke. And basically everything that could eat into my heal pots did. If I hadn't been at level 35, I wouldn't have hit level 42 before Tiamat, and there's a good chance that I would not have made it. Fortunately, even though the Temple of Fiends was about as bad as it could be, I levels and just like enough HP that I could safely get through. Did you wind up danning your fighters?
Nope. I kept everyone alive. Well, except for the Red Mage. He passed away during the eye battle. He got glanced. And
no, he got quad X'd actually.
Oh, that's right. He did get quad X. You are absolutely correct. He had below 300 hit points, and he got quad X. And I was like, that's sad. And then
I thought that was kind of a halfways intentional move, since when you were healed your black belt, you didn't heal the Red Mage, since he did have a higher, more than 300 max.
Yeah, that was kind of the plan. I was going to see how it would go. Basically, what boiled down to was on the eye grind, I knew there were a couple of packs I did not want to run into, which is why I didn't bother just danning everybody except for the black belt, because if I had run into, I don't know, that pack of ambushing mages,
or the sorcerers,
and they just wiped my whole party out, that would have been like a total bummer.
Yeah, we were contemplating that while you were going about that whole deal.
Yeah, I know, and sorcerers, I mean, and vanilla aren't like the most popular, or aren't, really, they aren't very common on that particular ice floor, but they do exist, and they would have wiped me out, especially if they had gotten all trance happy and of course started attacking my people. That mage ambush, the 4 mages that just attacked instead of doing anything, that was pretty fortunate.
Oh wow!
That could have gotten ugly
ambushed
really quick.
Mages, it's often all over.
Yeah, and luckily that didn't. It was not over. But by then, I mean, I think my whole party was at like level 37 at that time, and I was kind of like you. Once I got out of there, I knew that I could probably get the rest of the levels I needed in Topher, because there's enough unrunnables in there.
Were you swinging silver swords?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was swinging the whole time. Everybody had a silver sword. It was, you had a silver sword. He had a silver sword. My entire party had silver swords and steel armors and gold bracelets. And
Black belt had
I
one for ceremonial purposes.
my black belt was, he was going au natural. But luckily, I avoided Bane from Tia 2, and I avoided Crack from Chaos on my high-level black belt.
I think Tiamat 2 might have cast Bane on me, but I had level 42 black belts at that point, so they could resist. It was a 3 out of 256 to hit me.
Yes. I think I lost a fighter to Kraken too. He punched one of my fighters pretty hard, and then I lost a fighter during the Tiamat 2 battle, and then I got the tile right before Chaos's room. I got the 4 worms, and then lost my red mage in that battle, and so it was just down to my black belt. And he was like level 43, so he like just punched Chaos a couple times and took him down.
I don't know. I got a little bit unlucky with the vampire packs. I ran into them twice. They had a lot of vampires, and they somehow landed Dazzle on my black belt, which likely with such high magic defense. But beyond that, I had decent. The biggest lucky thing was that Kraken didn't get a shot off, because if Kraken did, then I'd off. Well, I mean, sooner than I did.
Yeah, were either of you concerned about your heal potion count? Because both of you pretty much ran through your whole stock going through Topher.
Concerned about my heal potion count because I couldn't find Elfland, so I didn't have any extra healing magic on my red mages. Were low enough level that they couldn't tank too many hits. Like, I think the bad man eliminated them.
Yeah, that early Batman encounter, that definitely put a dent in things.
Yeah, so I was a little bit concerned, but I was sort of behind my goal in terms of heal pots to have. Like, I'd prefer to have about going into water floor, and I had like 28. I figured I'd be all right.
Man, I will have to say, you were lucky Topher landed where it landed, because I played a seed earlier and Topher was chime locked. So, I mean, the fact that the Topher was on the mainland, I mean, it could have been anywhere else, and I would have won that race because I found the canoe.
If Topher isn't on the mainland, I probably don't to grind on Peninsula of Power. I'd be doing a lot more exploring. I wound up 20-something chests. It said 8. It said 9 at the end, but I reset out of most of the chests that I opened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, ship and floater were right there, and then TNT to canal, and then I found the canoe, and I think it was Northwest Castle is where all the earth floors were, and once I found the canoe, I basically jet out of there and got the airship. In the first place I stopped outside of course, Crescent, which was Onrack, was Ice Cave, which was, well, it was Ice Cave. And then I did my grind.
I didn't have a fighter, so I didn't feel comfortable taking on the Earth Elemental. That actually probably would have been a big deal, because it would have been a while before I could get anywhere near that canoe, having to take on 2 Earth Elementals and then still escape.
Yeah.
They whacked me for a lot.
Yeah,
and one thing that I had mentioned before, earlier on, was regarding your guys' choice of parties, was because Gregory Puff had the couple fighters, would have a bit of an equipment advantage with just not having to rely on the black belts as primary damage from largely from the get-go. So Greglipov was able to get levels earlier. It was just Elastoid once the two black belts came into the roam, they were able to carry the way.
Yeah, once I had level 10, I knew I would be fine. When I investigated the entire continent, I decided I'm gonna, try to get a level on Earth floor. Moles, there's asps, there's a few things that are just sort of mid tier in XP that were good enough to get me to level 10, and at that point, be able to take on a single Zomble or a single Troll or something like that, and sort of slingshot off of that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't know what I was doing in like the first probably 10 or 15 minutes of that game. I did.
Like,
I didn't know
these flags.
Yeah, I had no fucking clue what I. Oh, excuse my language. I'm sorry. I had no clue what I was doing. I eventually found a chest, I think in the vanilla coral sword chest, that had like a ton of gold, and so I was like, "Oh, heck yeah, I found gold!" And so, I picked up like a ton of silver swords, a bunch of healing, a bunch of pures, a bunch of stuff like that, and then was able to, once I had all those silver swords on everybody, I was able to at least take on enemies as I was going. But it could have gone a little bit better on my end. But normally, like Castle Canaria, like leads you to something pretty safe. I was a little surprised to see that first floor there. Kind of caught me off guard, and then I got the TNT out of Dwarf and then left because I knew the flags were like, nothing is nothing's incentivized, and so I didn't think I would even get the canal doing the TNT turn in, and then I just went on ahead and did it anyway, and was like, oh hey, that's a canal, that's something.
So
yeah, well, with the Helter Skelter, it shuffled the NPC items, but the chain items, like
fetch quest, are still
the fetch quest stuff was still unchanged.
Yeah, I got a little confused by that. I'd only played. I assumed Elastoid was going to pick Helter Skelter, so I kind of practiced it a little bit. The one thing that you picked that really surprised me was the vanilla spells. But I kind of had
you hesitate there. Like I saw you consider vetoing that.
Yeah, but I know how to deal with that. I've played the vanilla game enough to, and that actually changed my party tremendously. I had a completely different party setup planned, and then you chose vanilla spells, and I was like, well, I don't need really mages right now because who knows what I'll find and where I'll find it, and pretty much all the good spells are higher level, and it didn't really seem to make much sense to bring a white or a black mage along.
I just now, running through it, found Dwarf Cave. I can't believe it was right there.
Oh, you never found
I never went down those stairs because I knew that I would never be able to get out without running into the unrunnable Wizzahags and anything that could kill them.
Sorry, we're probably talking way too much. Melee Wizard, we're good here to just.
Yep. One thing I was going to go into with this looks like, if I'm reading things correctly, it looks like Elastoid is moving on into the winner's bracket, and your next opponent is going to be Artea. How are you feeling about that?
Oh, I'm taking that cocky Scott down.
Meanwhile, Greglipov will be moving on into the loser's bracket. Your next opponent will be Lord of the Synth.
And that sounds great. I figured I'd end up in the loser's bracket one way or another. So I'm totally fine going now, better than later.
we knew that the prize here was going to be to lose to Artea. So I mean, we gave it our all, but credit Greg, you won one race handily, and then the other two races, you 3 or 4 minutes. Like that was real close.
Yeah. And yeah, I should have. No, I'm kind of glad I didn't veto the Helter Skelter. It ended up working out okay, even though I was kind of behind you. You found Topher. I never checked Dwarf. I didn't. I just couldn't do it. I had, once I found that canoe, I knew that I could check it once I got the airship, and I was making some silly decisions, but it all ended up working out okay. Like I said, I was only a few minutes behind you, and that's fine. And once I found the eye tile, I decided I know what Vanilla Topher's like, and I'm not messing around. I'm gonna go as high up as I can possibly go in this particular situation because a wipe and Topher is gonna take up more time than just grinding and grinding and grinding.
All right. I think on that note, as entertaining as it's been listening to you two interview each other and say,
Sorry.
No,
that's fine. That's fine. It's
y'all been asking better questions than I think either of us would have. So, but yeah, I think that this is probably a good point to go ahead and stop imposing upon the kindness of the Speed Gaming Network, to whom we owe a great deal of gratitude for putting us on the main stage tonight. But yeah, I guess any final thoughts, Elastoid, Gregory?
I'm gonna see if I can. My goal is to take one game off of Artea, so we're gonna see if we can do that, and that's my final thought. 2-1 instead of a sweep.
It's always nice to have goals.
Yeah, my goal is to not go 0-2. So hopefully, hopefully I can at least make it into round 2 of the losers bracket. Other than that, good game, Elastoid. Good flags. Next time, I'll actually use my veto. Maybe I'll actually veto something instead of just taking it like I just did the first and third games.
I think there's been, I used a veto, but I don't think you used either veto.
I didn't. I let you go. I let you do your thing. But it was fun.
That was kind of you. Although, to be honest, I pulled Helter Skelter in hopes of baiting out your veto. Once you didn't veto Helter Skelter, I had to adapt and use Chaos Rush. That was not my plan.
All right. Woat, thank you so much. Melee Wizard, thank you so much. Speed Gaming, thank you so much. And have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, y'all take care. Melee, you got any final thoughts?
Well, in the Speed Gaming family, there isn't really anything going on immediately coming up. There's an Azure Dreams match that might still be going on. I'm not sure. The next thing won't really be happening until 10:30 Wednesday morning Eastern, where we'll have some Super Metroid Prodigy, some more Azure Dreams, the couple Wind Waker randomizer matches. So there's at least a bit of variety to look forward to.
All right. Yeah, if you haven't already, make sure to follow our runners down there. Feel free to throw Melee Wizard a follow as well if you so choose. I know he's got some pretty entertaining icons on his channel, but I'd say that that's probably a good note to end on. So go ahead and get some sleep, folks, and I hope everyone has a good night. Take care, y'all.
Have a nice night.